This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Carter Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, September the 4th, 1988, a new era in the NFL started. It's not an expansion team, per se, but it's a relocated team. As the NFL would relocate from St. Louis to Phoenix. And the Cardinals play their first game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's the 1988 season, and the Cardinals are going to take on the Bengals, who have had some good years in the 80s but faltered recently. The Cardinals came off of a 7-9, came off of a season in which they were 7-8 and third in the NFC East. You'd be thinking to yourself, 7-8. They only played 15 games that year? Well, they did, because 1987 was the season in which the players struck for the second time middle of the season, and owners used replacement players for 3 weeks to make sure that nobody got cheated. If anyone didn't get cheated, well, they kind of did. It's the whole replacement players situation. So regardless of that, they tried their best with Neil Lomax and Cliff Stout at quarterback. Anyway, the Cardinals had to beat the Dallas Cowboys to secure a wildcard spot, but lost to Dallas in Dallas. Even more shocking was that March 15, 1988 was the day that St. Louis would lose the Cardinals franchise to Tempe, Arizona. The Cardinals would be the Phoenix Cardinals and play 6 years before they decided of the Arizona Cardinals. And of course, it still didn't make sense for the Phoenix Cardinals to play in the NFC East, especially when they moved to Arizona. Well, yeah, they moved to St. Louis, fair enough, but Arizona. This would actually not be the first Cardinals franchise relocation. This would be their second. They were the Chicago Cardinals for many years, playing at Wrigley Field alongside the Chicago Bears before the Bears moved to Memorial Stadium or Soldier Field. So the Chicago Cardinals, knowing their fate was sealed, trying to compete with the Bears, would actually move from Chicago to St. Louis to become the St. Louis Cardinals. One tiny problem, though, is that you move the team to St. Louis, fine, but the only problem is the nickname sucked. They were the St. Louis Cardinals, sure, but there was a baseball team, well established baseball team called the St. Louis Cardinals, so it was confusing AF. While in St. Louis, the football Cardinals won a few division titles but couldn't get a postseason thing going. So they couldn't win in the postseason. And fan fans and interest kind of dipped in St. Louis. St. Louis had a golden chance in 1984 to make the playoffs, to win the division, but choked it in the last few weeks. So the Cardinals would move to Phoenix. Phoenix had been looking for a football team for many years and wanted one, and Bill Bidwell finally sold the team to Phoenix. Phoenix was actually one of the finalist cities to get the Colts franchise before they moved to Indy. So anyway, their first draft as the Phoenix Cardinals, they took in the third round a quarterback slash punter from Ohio State by the name of Tom Tupa. Bet you didn't hear of him. That was their only key member of the Cardinals. They had some undrafted free agents, but nothing much there. So their roster to start the 1988 season was big. Neil Lomax, a great quarterback, would be the leader, with Cliff Stout, the backup, the former Steeler, and Tom Tupa being the third string. All that. Yeah, Lomax would play for Portland State. There. Running backs, they had Jesse Clark, Stump Mitchell, a great returner by the name of Phi Sikahima, who had later gone to the Eagles. Wide receivers, they had a few good ones. Roy Green and Ernie Jones, with J.T. Smith coming in as well. Tight end, they had a young Jay Novacek before he went to the Cowboys. Offensive line, they had a few decent players, Todd Pete and Louis Sharp. Defensive linemen, like defensive ends and tackles, Freddie Joe Nunn anchored that. Like the linebackers, Ken Harvey, Ricky Hundley, the former Bronco, and EJ Jr. and Nico Noka were good linebackers. Defensive backs, they had Tim McDonald and Reggie Phillips. Anchoring special teams, Aldo Greco before he would kick for the Titans. Well, they always slash Titans was the kicker for the Cardinals, and Greg Horn was the punter. So they started their campaign in Cincinnati against the Bengals. The Cardinals actually took the lead in the game as Stump Mitchell got a touchdown pass from Neil Lomax to make it 7-0. The Bengals would tie the game on a touchdown pass from Boomer Esiason to James Brooks, not the Simpsons guy. Cardinals would actually take the lead 14-7 on a touchdown from Lomax to Roy Green, but Boomer threw 2 touchdowns to Eddie Brown and Mike Martin to make it 21-14 Bengals, and that was it. The Bengals were the winners of this one. Lomax didn't do that badly. 21 for 31, 227, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Stump Mitchell put up 110 yards running, so that was good. Receiving, J.T. Smith was the best receiver, 7 catches for 98 yards. Boomer Esiason went 17 for 26, 271 with 3 touchdowns on a pick. Running, James Brooks was 75. Stanley Wilson, 47 yards when he was playing and not in a cocaine binge. And Eddie Brown, 143 yards receiving. Now, I know Canadian fans would be like, is that the same Eddie Brown who made that famous shoestring catch in the Grey Cup in 1996? No, it actually isn't. And that Eddie Brown, the Bengals Eddie Brown, actually beat Jerry Rice for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Can you believe that? So that was what happened. The Cardinals would then host the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, no less. And in the first ever regular season game in the state of Arizona. But unfortunately, the Cowboys would win 17-14. Fear not, the Cardinals actually won their game in Tampa against the Buccaneers, winning 30-24 for their first ever win as the Phoenix Cardinals. That would be the start of a 4-game winning streak when they beat Washington, the Rams, and Pittsburgh to go 4-2. They were 7-4 and in prime position for a playoff spot. However, they choked, losing to Houston, Philly, Giants, Philly again, and then Green Bay. Those losses were downright despicable. And all that. So that was not good. Well, the Cardinals would not have made the playoffs anyhow. Well, they're 7-4. They needed 10 wins. The Eagles won the division on tiebreak with the Giants. And the Giants with 10 wins didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't make the wildcard game. So the Cardinals would have needed 10 wins. My feeling is that they probably could have won a couple and got to 9 wins, but they would have missed out on the playoffs anyhow. So the Cardinals started life in Arizona, which was not easy for people to know because the Cardinals kept missing the playoffs and all that. However, in 1998, just after getting Jake Plummer in the draft, the Cardinals somehow made a rally, won a wildcard berth on the final day of the season against San Diego, would go on to Dallas to play the Cowboys and beat the Cowboys for their first postseason win as a franchise in 5 decades. You read that right. They hadn't won a postseason game since 1948, the Cardinals franchise. The Cardinals would, Phoenix became the Arizona Cardinals, and we all know about the Arizona Cardinals and their supposed Cinderella run, if you will. It depends on who you talk to. Well, their run in 2008 when they won the NFC title game, got to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and it was an instant classic. They almost had it, but the Steelers just got them. So anyway, the Cardinals were in Arizona to stay, somehow. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond.